You can reach functional conversational Spanish in 90 days and have friends at the end of this challenge without burning out. My name is Jorge and I have helped many expats integrate in Spain and learn conversational Spanish. So what I've seen many of my clients is that they share two common big problems when they learn Spanish. First of all, there is a lack of consistency in the practice. Like some of them, they practice only once per week, so they progress very little or um, not at all. And we are going to solve this with this challenge because we are going to practice every day, and I will show you how, so we don't disrupt your schedule because you probably already have many responsibilities. The other problem is that they have the wrong way of practicing. And what's the wrong way of practicing? Is the way we learn at school. So at school, we don't practice the language, we study it. We study it as if it was history or a language we no longer use, like Latin or ancient Greek. But the language is necessary for communication, and that's how we need to practice it, by using it. So instead of studying the language, we are going to do the following. We are going to focus 80% of the time on real life practice. This means reading Spanish, speaking in Spanish with other people, especially native speakers, listening to music, listening to podcasts, etc. And only 20% is going to of the time we are going to be studying. I say here no more than 30 minutes per day. Why? Because I don't want you to spend too much time here. And I know many people use this studying to procrastinate this speaking and socialization that is truly the difficult thing I see on my clients. The difficult part is not to study some grammar or learn some vocabulary. The difficult part is to expose yourself to social situations where maybe you make a mistake, maybe you feel embarrassed, etc. So studying, we limit it to 30 days. Real life practice is our main priority. Okay, so the studying we are going to do, because we want to do very little, is going to be the 20% that will bring 80% of the results. So 5 verb tenses, I will tell you which and when to learn them during the next 90 days, and the minimum vocabulary. Minimum vocabulary means essential vocabulary, the vocabulary that everyone who speaks Spanish, both learners and native speakers, need, and they use it thousands of times. We are going to see it in week 1, and vocabulary that is relevant to you. That means vocabulary that you are going to need. It's certain that you are going to need it because you have an appointment in the bank, or you have an appointment with the dentist, or you are going to tennis lessons. So vocabulary that is relevant to you, not vocabulary that might be useful one day. That's not what we are looking for here. We are looking for vocabulary relevant to you. Okay, and with that real life practice, you are also going to learn vocabulary, maybe and probably even more. How? How are you going to do the studying? So if you don't have a tutor, you can use AI. I'm not saying that AI is as good as a tutor, but if you don't have a tutor, you can use AI. And how are you going to use AI? You can go to Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude and write a prompt like this. For example, present tense. Can you explain the present tense in Spanish? I am a beginner, important to say this. I am learning Spanish from Spain in particular because the Mexican Spanish or the Argentinian Spanish, they have differences, and these differences can matter. And say, I need to first understand when to use it. Important. We spend enough time here to understand it. And then conjugations, and then some exercises, and especially some ways to practice it in real life. Because only 30 minutes of study per day, as I said, which is going to be enough because that's more than 3 hours per week. We are going to use this. We are going to write prompts for both vocabulary and grammar, okay? So when you need vocabulary that, for example, for an appointment, you use AI. This is similar to what Aviv did. Aviv worked with me, is one of my clients, and he barely spoke any Spanish, but he practiced every day or almost every day for a few months, and after those months, he could have 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours conversations in Spanish with native speakers. And he doesn't have perfect Spanish or native level Spanish or advanced Spanish, but he has enough Spanish to understand and be understood, which is our goal in this challenge, okay? So if you want to do this challenge alone, great. If you want help, you can work with me and receive guidance and correction and feedback for the next 3 months. Okay, so what's real life practice? What do I mean by this? So it has two parts, linguistic immersion and socialization. What does it mean, linguistic immersion? It means incorporating the language that you are learning, Spanish, in your daily life. Basically, you can ask yourself this question. What am I doing in English nowadays that I could be doing in Spanish right now? For example, here I give you some examples. You can be as creative as you want. Do I read in English? I could be reading in Spanish. Do I watch shows in English? I could watch them in Spanish with Netflix, with LingoPie. LingoPie is a kind of Netflix with shows made specifically to help you learn languages. YouTube videos in Spanish, journaling in Spanish, both writing and recording audio. Recording audios is great because you can listen to you 2 weeks ago, what was your level, and see the progress. That's very good. Playing multiplayer video games. You can find people on Discord to play those video games. Find Spaniards. For example, one client used this and made friends like this. You can train your algorithms. So when you are scrolling, you are doing something useful. You are learning Spanish. You can do it on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. This is something Aviv did, and he learned a lot of cultural things, slang, vocabulary, things that are not in textbooks most of the time. Listen to podcasts in Spanish when commuting. Listen to music. Think in Spanish, super important. Look for Spaniards in your area. As we said, socialization, we will see more on that now. With Facebook, with Meetup, look for groups, look for events, local events. For example, another client went to a stand-up comedy in Spanish, so he could listen to jokes in Spanish and be surrounded by Spaniards at the same time. Look for Spaniards online. Tandem and HelloTalk, these are two apps where you register, you create your profile, and you say, I speak these languages, English and maybe other languages, and I want to learn Spanish. And in that system, you will find people that want to learn the languages you speak, and you can learn the language they speak Spanish. And among other tools that are very good, and the good thing is that you can speak orally, not just texting. Okay, so apart from linguistic immersion, it's important to socialize because speaking is super important when learning a language. That's something that uh, schools and academias often miss. Speaking is super important. So how do we socialize? We need to go where the people, where the Spaniards are. So that's the main thing. We need to be close to them. So we will have more conversations. Maybe we'll become friends, etc. You can do this both online or offline. For example, some ideas, bars, nightclubs, workshops. If you want to learn a new skill, you can learn it in Spanish. Sports, especially sports that are social, that involve interaction, not sports that you do alone. For example, going to the gym is sometimes lonely, but playing tennis with an instructor that is Spanish, etc. It's going to have more interactions probably. Reading clubs, etc. Online, you can find Spanish groups on Discord. You can find events on Meetup. You can use HelloTalk that we talked about before. It's important that you choose activities that you like. Maybe you already do them in English. So it's important that you do activities that you like because it's important that the process of learning Spanish is something enjoyable to do, something that is adapted to your personality. If you don't like parties because you're an introvert, you find something else like the workshops or the sports clubs, etc. if you ever need to start a conversation, or someone talks to you and you don't know what they say, here is the sentence that's going to save you. Hola, no hablo español, estoy aprendiendo. This means, hello, I don't speak Spanish, I am learning. So, for example, one client, an American living in Valencia, has used this a lot. And when, for example, she went to do shopping in Valencia, she would say this to the sellers, and many sellers would immediately smile, because in Spain, trying to speak Spanish makes you likable. It's very important you remember this. And they said to her, I am learning English in my case. And then she offered them, ¿Quieres tomar un café? Te invito. Do you want to take a coffee? I invite you. Or some form like this. Okay, so apart from this, let's see what is the roadmap for these next weeks, these next 90 days. So from weeks 1 to 3, the result that we are expecting is that you can talk about who you are, what you do, and what you like at the end of these weeks. And also you, among other things, and also you will meet a few Spanish native speakers. Daily, and this is for all the channels, you are going to focus on the linguistic immersion that we talk about and the socialization, okay? You're going to meet people. If you already know some people, it's good that you also call them or message them and saying, hey, I want to practice Spanish, or any other sentence. And for the studying we are going to do, we want to keep it minimal. In week 1, we are going to only learn the present tense. The present tense, we use it to speak about our routine and what we do in our lives, okay? Week 2, ser and estar, that are to be, the verb to be in Spanish. It's important to understand the difference. In week 3, some irregular verbs in the present tense only. Not all of them, because we want to focus on the 20% that brings 80% of the results. So I said here, ir, venir, hacer, ser, estar. I recommend you to learn those in the week 3, not more than that, okay? Because the focus needs to be on the real life practice. Apart from that, essential vocabulary you can learn, the sentence that we talk about, hola, no hablo español, estoy aprendiendo. Another one, hola, ¿cómo estás? Bien, ¿y tú? Hello, how are you? Good, and you? As you can see, all these sentences that you can learn are very common, very useful. You will use them frequently. Especially, I want you to learn this sentence if you're in Spain. ¿Puedes repetir más despacio? Por favor. Can you repeat more slowly, please? And also this one. You will hear many things you don't understand. ¿Qué significa? And then you say a Spanish word, the Spanish word that you heard, or something like what you heard, no? To the best of your ability, you repeat what they said. And this means, what does a certain word mean? ¿Qué significa coche? You hear that word and then you ask, and they will explain you. Okay, and apart from that, vocabulary relevant to you. As I said, only the one that you are certain you are going to need, because you have an appointment, because you are going to a cafeteria, because you are going to the gym, etc. And then you learn language that you may need during this event, okay? Not more than this, because we don't want to spend our time memorizing flashcards and things like this, okay? We need to focus on real life practice. Weeks 4 to 5. Result that we expect, you can talk about what you did in the past. And also you start to have some social circle in Spain, okay? Because you already met people in week 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And daily we are going to do the same as before. We are going to do linguistic immersion and socialize. And for the studying, one new tense, pretérito perfecto simple, that we are going to use to talk about what you did yesterday, last week, in 2019, events in the past, okay? Finished events in the past. In week 5, we are going to learn some irregular verbs of this tense, pretérito perfecto simple. Tener, ser, decir, estar. And I wrote decir again. Okay, so these 4 verbs, not more, there are more, but these are super frequent. Vocabulary relevant to you, again, that and the daily part are going to be the same every week. Week 6 to 7. Result that we expect. The goal is that you can talk about past routine, habits, things that you did repeatedly in the past, and also speaking Spanish or speaking with Spaniards is your new normal, okay? Because you are doing it daily, in fact, or at least that's the goal, that you do this daily. Okay, daily the same thing, studying pretérito imperfecto, a new tense, to talk about past things that happen repeatedly or that they were unfinished actions. You will see what it is in week 6. And in week 7, 3 regular verbs, because this tense only has 3 regular verbs. There are no more. Ir, ser, and ver. Okay, weeks 8 to 9. You are going to be able to talk about recent events with precise grammar, because you are going to learn at this point the third, and you will already have 3 tenses in the past, 3 past tenses. So you will have more precise grammar here. And you are going to realize that some Spaniards are starting to become your friends because you meet them often or you talk with them often. And then you make plans with them and they invite you to plans. So daily, you are going to do the same as usual and studying a new tense that is pretérito perfecto compuesto to talk about the past, but it's a past that is connected to the present. So what I did today is the present, but the events happen in the past. What I did this week, what I did this month, what I did this year, etc. Okay? And in week 9, we are going to learn 3 regular verbs of this tense, decir, hacer, and ver. Again, there are more. We focus on the most frequent, 20% that brings 80% of the results. Weeks 9 to 10, we are going to become capable to talk about the future with a correct grammar. So, and also you are going to start to feel comfortable speaking Spanish with Spaniards. Okay, you at this point you have done this for dozens of hours if you follow the challenge correctly to speak with Spanish. I mean, so daily, you're going to do the same as usual, studying a new tense, futuro simple, that is useful to talk about plans in the future or things that will happen with certainty. In week 10, we are going to learn some irregular verbs of this tense, decir, hacer, tener, and poder. Okay? Finally, weeks 11 to 12, the result of this week, this is the end of the challenge, you are already integrated, you have a social circle, you start to feel like you belong, some feeling of belonging. This happened to Avi, for example. And speaking in Spanish starts to feel natural to you, like you default to Spanish. When you learn a language daily for many hours, what happens to you after a certain time is that you think in that language involuntarily. You respond in that language when people speak to you, even if it's in English, involuntarily, because it becomes your new default, your new natural, your new normal. So daily we are going to do the same as usual. Studying, we are going to just review what we did, especially what you struggle with. So let's say that set and start, it's still a bit confusing to you. You can spend time on that, for example. As I said, not more than 30 minutes per week. Why do we do this? Because in these last 2 weeks, we are going to solidify our base. So after this challenge, because learning will not stop after this challenge, once this challenge is finished, we are going to continue practicing and learning, okay? And it's important that these 5 verb tenses and the vocabulary that you learned, this essential vocabulary especially, is maintained. Okay, so I want to warn you about something. During these 90 days, something is going to happen. Your confidence is going to fluctuate. I think I've seen this in every client I've had, which is that maybe when they start learning Spanish, their confidence is here, and after 4 weeks, the confidence is lower, and then the confidence grows and it goes down, and etc. And it's normal that it fluctuates. And this, it's important to be aware when you have a problem of confidence and not a problem of competence. It's important to make this difference between these two concepts because they are not the same and they don't have a one-to-one correlation. So how is it going to manifest this lack of confidence? Normally with thoughts like, I'm terrible at this, my grammar is not good, I'm not good at learning languages, I am bothering other people with my broken Spanish, which is probably false because I remind you, trying to speak Spanish in Spain makes you more likable. Also, you will find yourself probably when your confidence is low, overcorrecting yourself, overthinking what you say. That's that will show us that our confidence is low, and it's important that we focus on something else that we're going to say when instead of overcorrecting and overthinking, we are going to see something else. Okay, so it's important, as I said, to realize that confidence doesn't mean competence. In fact, it may happen that the more competent you are, the less confident you will feel. Why is that? Because when you start, you make errors but don't notice. Your confidence is high, you are excited about learning the language, um, and you want to achieve your goals. But once you start to learn, you start to notice what errors you are making. Okay? Because not because you are less competent, it's because you are more competent. You are competent enough to realize that you are making errors. Okay? And how do we surpass this problem? We arrive to the point here where you accept that you and everyone else makes errors when speaking Spanish or any other language, even native speakers. I make errors in Spanish. I hear people making errors in Spanish, errors of grammar. They think one word means something when in fact it means something else. So it happens to everyone. But once you accept this, you decide to focus on the right mindset. And what is the right mindset of learning languages? The right mindset is, I don't try to speak perfectly. I try to communicate. That means to understand and be understood by the others. I repeat, I don't try to speak perfectly, I try to communicate. That's what we need to focus on when we are going to have an interaction. We drop the perfectionism and we focus on the simple goal of language, which is communication. That's the focus. Communication. Are they understanding me? Am I understanding them? Perfect grammar, it's secondary at most. Okay? So at the end of this challenge, you will be able to have conversational Spanish and have a social circle. Okay? You will be much more integrated. If you want, you can do this by yourself. If you need help, if you want guidance, feedback, etc., we can work together if you want for the next 3 months. The link is in the description to book a call with me, and hasta pronto.